Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode, I take a look at the 1996 film The Phantom with Billy Zane, Christy Swanson, Treat Williams, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Well, it has a 42% on the tomato meter and a 31% on the audience score. Now, with those actors I just read off, would you think that this would be rotten? Well, I've got news for you. This is probably not only rotten, but is one of the worst, if not the worst, and most ridiculous and dumb superhero movie I have ever seen. And I am almost 50 years old. And that's saying a lot. This thing really takes the cake for how stupid it is. Dumb, dumb, and dumber. It is rotten in so many ways, but the largest one being that within the first 5 minutes of this film, you can tell that this is just straight up a rip-off of Indiana Jones in many, many ways. Just a straight up rip-off of the first Raiders of the Lost Ark and a rip-off of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Those two right off the bat in the first 10 minutes are ripped off gratuitously. No shame in this at all. Ripped off in the characters, ripped off in the setting, ripped off on even the contrived action scenes. It is really laughably bad. Let's just say that at the beginning of this movie, there is a big exposition dump, if you will, to explain, some background on what the Phantom is. Yes, he's an African spirit superhero, but it is laughable because the exposition dump barely tells you any of this, and it's really stupid and dumb and actually makes it worse. They should have just had some kind of scene showing his origin. There's barely any scene to set this up or what this character is about, why you should care about him. It shows him as basically the lone survivor of a shipwreck. He's shipwrecked on the African coast, and some kind of tribe on the African coast takes him in and somehow performs some ceremony and makes him into their religious leader, god, called the Phantom. Wow, it's so dumb. Wow, so dumb and so short and so pointless. And the thing that makes this really bad is that this character is supposed to be in Africa, and yet the film is clearly not shot in Africa. If anything, it's shot in Thailand, in around somewhere in Southeast Asia. In every way, you can tell that it's Southeast Asia. Even the other characters in this, a lot of them are from Southeast Asia. Wow, but somehow we're supposed to believe this is Africa. It's unbelievable. It is so dumb. It is so dumb, it's hard to describe how dumb this is. I could just get right into the audience reviews because I don't know if I'm just going to make myself dumber describing how dumb this is. This is the worst of the worst. And, it's not even funny. If this were laugh out loud funny because it's so dumb, it'd be one thing. But there's nothing to even laugh out loud at this. I mean, I thought there would be, but you're just left staring at the screen wondering, did I lose IQ points watching this? Because I didn't even get to laugh. I mean, that's how dumb this is. So let's start with a November 5th, 2019 review, meaning that this is obviously still relevant today in the year of our Lord 2019. 3-star review. Loved it as a kid. Not that great, but my very young kids like it. I could see that maybe if you're 5 or 6 years old, you might find some value in this. But it's by the time you're 7 or 8 years old, you'll know how dumb this is. That's how dumb this really is. But as a 5-year-old, it's probably great. You have an African superhero that's clad in a purple suit and kind of in Western attire with a purple suit. And it's got the vibe of Indiana Jones mixed with it. Oh, wow. A 5-year-old maybe. Anybody older than that is just going to wonder if they got dumber too watching this. Yeah, I'll say this deserves half a star because along the way somewhere a movie was made and people got paid and the economy goes round and round with the jobs, right? Even in Hollywood. So yeah, half a star, but otherwise, yeah, this doesn't even reach 1 star because this might have actually lowered my thinking capacity at some point, and just trying to force myself to sit through this, I thought I was in danger of being damaged in some regard. It's so dumb. In any case, 3 stars again, August of 2019. Some 90s cheese goes well in a double feature with the Shad. Not sure what the Shad is. Maybe I don't want to know, but I'm gonna say this is worse than 90s cheese. This is like an insult to the 90s. I was in the 90s. I remember good movies in the 90s. This is not one of them. This is an insult. I'm glad I didn't see this in the 90s. I only saw this about three to 4 years ago on cable or satellite, and it was just an accident that I saw this because I forgot it existed. And that was good because at least it didn't hurt me when I was younger. Maybe as an older guy now, it doesn't drop my IQ as much watching this, hopefully. 5 stars. Always liked this movie and still do. It's held up well over the years, much better than other superhero movies. I think it's a pity they stopped after this one. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. It's like, this is parody review time here. I'm just not even going to go further on that one. 2 stars. Despite all the pirates, the pulp, and the purple, this ends up a plodding slog. The comic character may sometimes be called the ghost who walks, but the action merely crawls and never seems alive at all. The backstory goes that the original screenplay was meant to be tongue-in-cheek, a fact which chokes the whole production, accepting the scene-chewing treat of treat when played straight. Okay, maybe at some point originally this was supposed to be a parody or a comedy. It was supposed to make fun of itself. And then somewhere along the line they decided to do a serious film out of the same script. Okay, maybe that's what happened because, yeah, this is just like bad for the sake of being bad. I expected to laugh and yet I didn't. So that could be, but it failed. It really did fail. I'll say that there's a lot of laughably bad stuff that's just too serious to be comical. For example, Treat Williams plays a villain who also does very dumb stuff. For example, he wants to kill a scientist who he's deemed to be expendable to him. He doesn't need him anymore to carry out his nefarious plans. So instead of doing what I would do as a villain or anybody in the real world does, they just like shoot the guy. No, he's got to design a microscope for the scientist to look through. And in this microscope, there's a contraption hooked up to the tuning knob, to the adjustment knob, that when you turn it, spikes come out of the microscope and they spike your eyeballs out, or they spike up into your brain and kill you. I'm not sure why a villain would need to create this elaborate microscope to kill the scientist like this when he could just pull out a gun and shoot him, or have one of his many henchmen do it. It's one of the examples of how stupid this movie is, how dumb it is. A 5-year-old might think that's cool. It's got like a mustache-twirling James Bond type villain played by Treat Williams. That's just really dumb on top of it. Really, really dumb. I don't get it. When I saw that microscope stabbing the scientist in the eyes and the villain thinking that he was so sophisticated for killing him like that, why? The only two people in the room were the villain and the scientist. Why did the villain need to kill him like that? Nobody was around to see it. Certainly the audience saw it, but again, it's like the villain is playing to the audience. I almost expected Treat Williams' villain to turn to the audience and say something to me. It didn't quite get to that fourth wall part, but in a parody or a comedy that would have happened, and that's why this thing fails, because it expects it to be taken seriously but still does it in a parody way, but doesn't quite break the fourth wall where it needs to have that to be funny. It's just so dumb, so damn dumb. You've got teleporting characters, even at the beginning of the film in the opening action scene. You've got characters that, for example, Billy Zane's Phantom, he grabs onto a vine to swing like Tarzan from one part of the scenery to the other to intercept the bad guys in their escape. And yet, the bad guy is driving in a truck on a jungle road, and somehow Billy Zane, by swinging through the trees, can beat him to head him off at the pass, or at the bridge, so to speak. Teleporting characters. And the same thing when the scenery changes and it moves on board an old ship. The Phantom just shows up. He magically teleports right outside the ship, and he's just there. It's not shown how he got there. teleporting characters, teleporting good guys, teleporting bad guys, and yet we're supposed to take this whole thing serious. It just, the more this film goes on, the dumber it gets, and I'm baffled why this thing has such a high audience score, and that's what I'm trying to look for here. Why people see something redeemable in this? People that are obviously old enough to write reviews. So let's continue from January of 2019. Um, no, let's skip that. I read that one. October of 2018. Wow, there's a time gap there. Nothing interesting or memorable that is worth seeing in this movie. The plot is nothing interesting, the writing is bad, and the action sequences not entertaining. Yeah, all the action sequences are like things that are taken out of the Indiana Jones films, particularly the first one and two, Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom. A lot of it is just straight up ripped off out of that and done really bad and not funny and not in a thrilling way. And you just see Billy Zane in his overly muscled purple physique, and it just looks bizarre and out of place and stupid, and his acting is so bland. And whereas Treat Williams comes across as a mustache twirling villain, he plays it too far that way. Billy Zane plays his character as just a complete cardboard cutout in a purple suit. His line delivery is like that, and it's just like, what is going on here? Oh, wow, it's bad. I'm getting derailed, but let's move on here. 3 stars. Everything is cartoony, charming, and delightfully camp in purple lycra. A hero movie that doesn't take itself heavy or seriously, but understands its childlike sense of wonder and fun. Cartoony, maybe in the purple outfit and putting a purple outfit character in an Indiana Jones type setting. Charming and delightfully camp. No, I'm sorry. It wants us to take this all 100% serious, and it's just completely dumb. 1.5 stars, a hard watch. I cringe a lot throughout the movie. It does have some decent action scenes, but that's it. Writing is horrible. No, there's no decent acting scenes here. This movie considers, a decent action scene is like Billy Zane dropping in through an air vent into a room on a suite or a cabin, a stateroom on board a steamship, and he drops in and just punches a couple of bad guys out, and he's carrying around a revolver, and then he just says a one-liner and walks out of the room, and that's supposed to be action. It's like, if a 5-year-old tried to copy scenes from Indiana Jones and on a 5-year-old's level thought that was cool. That's how this comes across, how dumb it is. 2 stars. Yeah, a white guy in a purple outfit that is Lord of the Jungle. Yeah, I could have seen myself spending my hard-earned money on this big-time movie. I know it was based off a pulp comic book back in the day, but I never thought Hollywood would have the nerve to pick this pulp hero to make in a movie. Even in the day and age of the year 1999, the script is childish, the acting is unbelievably bad, and just the wrong movie, the time and age, even in 1999. So this reviewer is saying that he saw it when it was a few years out, 1999. It was produced in 96. So yeah, they probably saw it on cable or something. And yeah, same reaction I had. Who thought this was a good idea? It's wrong in every way. It's dumb in every way it could be dumb, as though it's deliberately dumb, written to be dumb, but not funny at the same time. 2 stars, dumb superhero movie. 5 stars, one of the best childhood movies ever made. Sure, if you're 5. If you're 4 or 5, this probably is just quite passable. 3 stars, we're in November of 2017. If you like laughing at terrible movies, give it a shot. Yeah, but it's not funny. You don't laugh. I wish I did. I would have had, I'd be laughing right now and smiling, but it's so hard to even just talk about how dumb this is. It's so incredibly dumb. 3 stars, it's a good movie to watch. I see that same comment, it's good movie to watch, 3 stars. This person just copies and pastes this on every movie there is. I don't know why. It's a flaw with Rotten Tomatoes, but let's move on. 3 stars, January of 2017. I've seen The Phantom once in my life, and that was when it came out. Recently, I decided to give it another shot, and I ended up finding a film that I kind of dug. Granted, the film does have some hiccups to it in the form of some fight scenes that are kind of clumsy looking. The story is a bit bare bones and could use some more development, and there are some scenes that made me wonder why the production included them because they were pretty darn silly. Still, with that being said, this person's being way too kind. Every element of this is dumb. Nothing is explained. There's no backstory to anything. Yes, there's like 30 seconds of exposition seen in the very beginning of the movie. It almost makes it worse. There's no reason to care for the Phantom. Like, he just is. He just is the Phantom, and you don't care how he got that way, and you don't know, and you just don't give a crap about anything he does. And his performance is so boring and cardboard and dumb. And on top of that, he's got this purple outfit, and he's got like the belt buckle and all these weird things that don't seem to belong together with it. No attempt to explain where any of this came from. He has a weird lair that's also supposedly supposed to be in Africa. There's stuff going on in this lair that doesn't make sense. It's not explained. He's got like a library inside and some kind of invisible spirit companion, also not explained, that just pops in and out to talk to him. What is going on here? This is completely dumb, and you just don't care. You just don't care. You're just wondering, what am I watching and why? And why is it so dumb? January of 2017, 1 star, Slam Evil. Maybe in the 30s when radio ruled, this was great, but made in the 90s, there are just so many things wrong with this feature. Very slow at times. The fight scenes look like they were choreographed in the 30s, meanwhile interspersed with some harsher violence. Overall, it just did not work. Yeah, a lot of the action and fight scenes, it was like stuff you would see in the very earliest fight scenes in the 1930s, yeah, where it was just fake and boring and just all shot from one camera, watching it from a boring angle. And yeah, you're just wondering, like, what is going on here and why am I sitting here hurting myself watching this? I agree with that. It's like they were trying to make it look like something dumb from the early days of filmmaking, like the old serials you would see in the movie theaters, except it just came across as dumb. Like, dumb. 2 stars. Billy Zane is the Phantom in this campy and lighthearted superhero film. Based on a comic serial, a vigilante in the African jungle known as the Phantom tracks a group of mercenaries back to New York and learns of a tycoon's plot to reunite 3 magic skulls to gain ultimate power. Co-starring Christy Swanson, Treat Williams, and Catherine Zeta-Jones, the cast is actually pretty impressive and does a good job at emulating the broad acting style of the old movie serials from the 30s and 40s. Wow, you're giving this too much credit. But thank you for the synopsis. Not a bad plot synopsis. Of course, the problem with this is at the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to a character that is very much a ripoff of Indiana Jones, and yet he's later revealed very quickly on in the story to be the villain, and the Phantom is supposed to be the good guy. Yet the movie wants us to track with this character that's this Indiana Jones type character who's like an evil Indiana Jones type character. He was actually more characterized and interesting than the Phantom. The Phantom was completely dumb. I would have much rather just stuck with the evil Indiana Jones and made this like some kind of weird evil Indiana Jones parody. It started that way. It certainly did. 3 stars. The years have been kind to this film and hold up quite well. I originally jumped on the bandwagon of disliking this film, but I now find it a guilty pleasure. The fight scenes and certain actors are cringeworthy, but there is something to like here. Billy Zane is quite good. Sadly, the material wasn't better to give him an honest chance. Let's just say Billy Zane, he's overly muscled and chiseled and cut in this, and it's obvious because they need to show us Billy Zane without a shirt on to hammer this home for us. And it's like they're trying to appeal to women. They're trying to make this a sex appeal movie for women. But then again, the movie starts as kind of an Indiana Jones ripoff, so it's dysfunctional. You're talking to 2 different types of audiences here, and it fails on both accords. And there's just nothing charismatic about Billy Zane. He's just cardboard stupid and dumb. Yeah, so what? He's like completely ridiculously muscled, and that's like the only thing about him that stands out. The rest of him is just dumb. 5 stars. Excellent road movie and actors. I don't know. I don't know what a road movie is. If you're watching this inside a car, God help you. I hope it's a short drive. 1 star. It is a shame that one of the best comics that I love had the misfortune of being made into a film in such a shabby way. Not worth neither see nor recommend this shit. The script is idiotic. The director is foggy, old, and performance are very bad. I hope that in the future the masked man has a right and improved fit properly. I don't know who wrote this thinking that this is like a popular comic book. It probably was like 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. But until this movie came out, I didn't even know there was such a thing as the Phantom. So I don't know who the hell wrote this, but maybe they're 80 years old or 90 years old. Okay, but are they still with us in our reality? I'm kind of doubting it. 4 stars, June of 2016. I submit The Phantom is the best comic book movie ever. Iron Man, The Avengers, Batman, and Superman might be bigger budget and higher grossing films made based on comic books, but The Phantom is a better comic book made into a movie. You could take any scene from this movie and turn it into a comic book cell. It's so good. No, I disagree. You could take any scene from this movie and make yourself dumber, even just as a comic book panel. This wouldn't even work as a comic book today. Maybe it did in the 30s, but if you tried to do this as a comic book today, just take this story from this movie, people would just straight up throw this in the trash. They might review it, laugh at it, and then throw it in the trash. I'm sorry. 3.5 stars. This movie is dope. F you all. I saw it in theaters as a kid and dug it, and I just watched it again for the first time since then and dug it again. Because I was smart as a child, I knew what was up, and I still know what's up. This shit is quality. You know what I noticed about reviewers that use the word dope? They're on dope. They have the mentality of somebody that's like smoked a lot of dope, and I'll just leave it at that. Sorry, but that's the way that comes across. 4 stars. The Phantom may not be a masterpiece, but it is a fun, old-fashioned flick with a great performance by Billy Zane, fantastic music by David Newman, good action sequences, and making this one a whole lot of fun to watch. I say gave it a look. Wow, are you high as well, like the last guy? This is Billy Zane's worst performance I've ever seen. He's just a cardboard character, a wooden character with a purple suit and mask on, and he looks stupid and he's completely dumb. I don't know what juice you're smoking or whatever, but you're way out there. 3 stars. It's a pretty good superhero movie. Not in this world, it isn't. 3.5 stars. While it fails to completely lean into the camp it flirts with or into the pulp it aspires to be, it is a surprisingly fun take on the superhero genre ahead of its time. It's not fun. It's just boring. It fails to be fun. It fails to be laugh. It fails to get a laugh. It's just completely boring and stupid, and you're wondering like, who had thought this was a good idea? It's just a waste of 2 hours. 3 stars. Watching right now. I'm pretty sure nobody remembered this film. Yeah, they tried to blank it out of their minds, most likely. 2 stars. Okay, just before Avengers. Wow, I don't care if you're talking about the Marvel Avengers or the British thing called the Avengers. Both of those are superior to this by orders of magnitude. 1.5 stars. When not even a non-nitpicking fan of the Phantom comic books can get behind this movie, it's bad. Casting is wrong, plot is wrong, effects are wrong, direction non-existing, villain wrong, dialogue sucks. Only thing I like is the 1920s setting, which I would like to see in a new Phantom movie, but because of this crap, we will probably never see another one. Well, here's some advice. If you're going to take a character that's supposed to be based on some kind of African legendary mysticism stuff, whatever that is, from the comic book origin, and it's set in Africa, he's a character that's in Africa, you should probably like film this in Africa, or at least someplace where it looks like Africa, and it's obviously not like someplace in Southeast Asia like Thailand with characters from Thailand. What were they thinking? That's just dumb. 4 stars. Seriously underrated on its original release, The Phantom delivers on almost all fronts. It delivers to make you dumber. 1.5 stars. The hero is not the script. I'd say there is no hero here, and the script, it was supposed to be a parody, but somebody decided to take a parody and like shoot it seriously, I guess. 3 stars. An enjoyable little film which seems to have sharply divided people on here. There's no division. There's just people that are smoking dope, like they say, and then there's the rest of us that have a brain that still functions. That's it. 1.5 stars. Didn't think this was too bad. The adventurous tone gave it a boost, but it was let down by a weak story and piss poor acting. Felt more like a matinee than a premiere flick. That's from October 1st of 2014. pretty incredible time jump in 1 or 2 pages. We've gone from 2018 to 2014, which tells me that there's not a whole lot of interest out there for this film. But we'll see. Let's move on and see how far back in time we go with how many pages it takes to go back in time. 3 stars. Again, July 2014. 65% show me the power. Xander Drax, Treat Williams. The Phantom is the most ordinary superhero ever. The skulls have spoken. Yeah, the skulls, like the plot in this movie is that, the bad guys are looking for these 3 mysterious skulls. These are skulls that are straight up copied from Raiders of the Lost Ark, only like there are 3 of them. And there's a scene in which, this Indiana Jones-like character that's an evil version of Indiana Jones, steals the skull, much like Indiana Jones did in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. Complete ripoff. 1 star, a gloriously, cheerily dumb movie that never takes itself seriously. It also never develops beyond a one-dimensional script into either a parody or a more serious adventure story. Yes, I agree completely. It's like a gloriously dumb movie that never gets funny. It never actually, it was written to be a parody, apparently, and it just then was shot and marketed as a serious film. Complete fail. 3 stars. This was actually not that bad a film. I mean, okay, the script felt dull and almost like an Indiana Jones Raider of the Lost Ark's feel to it. It was still able to make the film enjoyable, but when your main actor plays his character so one-dimensional, it's hard to like the film a lot. All in all, it's an okay film, but I think it needed more work on the script, and I think its biggest problem was how it was too similar to Raiders, especially near the end. This is one of those films I'd love to see rebooted. No, please don't remake this again, and I agree, it's a complete ripoff of the Indiana Jones films. Again, that's not the genre this was in. Why would you take a comic book movie and rip off Raiders of the Lost Ark? The two have nothing to do with each other. So, I mean, if you are just going to rip something off, why don't you at least rip off something that's in the same genre? This is a complete rip-off failure too, if you want to call it that. 2.5 stars. I really enjoy these sorts of period superhero films, i.e. The Rocketeer or The Shadow, but unfortunately audiences seem to rarely buy tickets for them, so there aren't so many of them. Yeah, and you know why that is? Because they don't age well. They're, the ones that are set in the 20s and 30s, they feature technology of the 20s and 30s and views of the future when they try to do futurism in those original materials that don't match up with our world. So the only way they really work, like, for example, Rocketeer and The Shadow, are if they're set in like sort of a steampunk alternate reality and you can just right off the bat say this isn't our world. That's how they work the best. In the case of this movie, The Phantom, they don't do that. They just say straight up in a serious fashion this takes place in the late 20s or the early 30s and it wants you to take that seriously. No, it doesn't work like that. Even if this had been funny, these films don't work unless they're in alternate realities, and that's a big problem of taking source material from the old radio shows or from the old matinee shorts that you would see in the theaters back in the 30s and 40s. That's a big problem with that. They by definition they have to be set in an alternative reality for the audience today to get absorbed into them, for the audience to suspend their disbelief enough to enjoy. 3.5 stars. The Phantom might be one of the more ridiculous superheroes, but that hardly matters when everyone involved is in on this. The Phantom is pure, unadulterated camp, and that's what makes it awesome. It's not camp. It's like, it could be, but it's not. They took a script that was designed for that, and then they played it straight, and it just comes off as really dumb and really boring, and you just don't care about anybody in this. And it's dumb. Dumb. Even the villain is dumb. What is he doing, and why is he doing it, and what are his dumb reasons? They're all dumb. Why? 4 stars. Xander Drax begins and ends in the letter X. Yeah, wow, that's so amazing. 3 stars. 2008's The Dark Knight is my second favorite film of all time, and so you're implying that this is your first? Yeah, yeah, you're being funny. I get it. April of 2014, 1.5 stars. Another victim to the shadow curse. Kids who have no idea who a character is will not be enthusiastic to see the silver screen version. Sure, The Phantom was very Raider-esque and featured pretty fair performances by Zane as Kit Walker and his violet-suited alter ego, and Treat Williams as the over-the-top megalomaniac with a little Howard Hughes thrown in for effect. But its plot, setting, and time period are just not suited for today's audience. If you see it and don't get it, yeah, nobody's going to get it. And it's not just the fact that it's we don't follow along with the time period and all that. As I said, this type of story works better in an alternate reality of sorts. But that's not its fatal flaw. It's just it's bad acting. All the characters do things for dumb reasons or no reasons. Nothing is set up. The main character, the Phantom, has no reason to exist. We don't have a reason for him even doing what he's doing. No motivation. We don't care. We don't care if he's in jeopardy or not. It's just dumb. So let's move on. 1.5 stars. Never really works perfectly and often not even well. Yeah, it never works at all, really. Like I said, the only thing that worked in this was the very beginning where you had an evil type Indiana Jones character going about stealing something from a tomb. That was actually the interesting part. If they had stuck with that, I would have given this, a higher rating. That was the more interesting story. The stuff when the Phantom appeared, just everything went to crap after that. 3 stars. It's a pulpy action adventure that could be called Batman and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it has every bit of the appeal that title suggests. Billy Zane has fun in the role of the first superhero, and while the script may be thinly written, there's enough to satisfy it. Wrong. Billy Zane's not acting. He's just standing in a purple outfit reading his lines. Literally, that's what he's doing. There's no, there's nothing here. There's not even a performance here. There's just Billy Zane. He's got the purple outfit on and he reads his dialogue and like, yeah, wow, that's so exciting. No, it's not. Sorry. 3.5 stars, February of 2014. First of all, this was not meant to be compared to Indiana Jones. Secondly, this was nearly in my time. I am 78 years old. Hardly anyone can identify the Phantom. Most never heard of him. For those in the know, it was almost a good, great movie. I loved it. Well, guess what? Yes, maybe this is something a 78 or an 80-year-old would appreciate. But see, the problem is they could have actually set the story up. They could have had this as an origin story. They could have put an origin story. But you're expecting people to watch something from 80 years ago with no origin story and it's not relevant to anything today and know what the hell's going on or care about the main character. This just doesn't work. It doesn't work like this. This is not what you do. Like I said, this works. This type of story works when it's set in an alternate type world, and it certainly works if there's an origin story and this is set up and the audience has something to go on, why this character is the way he is. You can't just take the Phantom, plop him in a jungle, and expect people to know what the hell's going on. It doesn't work like that. But again, this movie has so many other flaws, so many other flaws. That's just one of the flaws. 3.5 stars. The story begins as an expedition lands on the island of Bengala, seeking the legendary skulls of Tuganda, believed to harness an energy force of incalculable power. The skulls could spell disaster for mankind, and that's exactly what ruthless tycoon Xander Drax has in mind, unless one man can save it. Guess what? That little synopsis, that's true. Not arguing that that's not a correct synopsis, but guess what? We don't get any explanation of why these skulls are so dangerous. That's not shown to us. We don't get where this island of Bengala is. It's assumed it's in Africa, but it's just a fictional place that looks like Thailand. These legendary skulls of Tuganda, like this is like a 5-year-old's explanation of Indiana Jones and Temple of the Doom or something. This is really dumb. The audience knows nothing about what the hell, why they should care about any of this. Disaster for mankind. Well, you see that, yes, there's a ruthless tycoon, a dumb villain, Xander Drax. He wants these skulls. Why? He's like this New York tycoon, and why does he want the skulls? Why does he know their existence? Why does he think that they'll give him power? What kind of power is it? We don't get any of this. It's all unexplained and dumb. Really. 5 stars, December of 2013. A mixture of Tim Burton's Batman and The Mummy, a fun movie to watch on Blu-ray. No, it isn't. It's a mixture of like Batman, a really bad 5-year-old version of Batman, a 5-year-old's concept of Batman mixed with the first two Indiana Jones movies. That's more accurate. And again, half a star. 3.5 stars, with a mild sense of action with family-friendly elements. The Phantom features solid performances by Billy Zane, Treat Williams, Christy Swanson, and a special appearance by Catherine Zeta-Jones. There are no performances here. These people got paychecks, and that's all they did. Performances were crap. 3 stars, October 2013. Not a fan of the comic strips, but as a child, I would watch this over and over again. It's one good adventure until you grew up and watched it again. It was not as awesome as I remembered. Yeah, okay, if you were 5 years old and watched it and were blown away, and then you watched it when you were 25, you're probably like, what was I thinking? What happened to me? Okay, I might agree with that. 1 star, adaptation of Lee Falk's comic strip about a superhero without superpowers or gadgetry, but lots of courage and heroism. From Indiana Jones to the Mummy, there certainly have been better attempts at recreating the magic, or at least the characteristic appeal of matinees. The Phantom simply falls flat because of its one-dimensional screenplay, and there is very little anyone can do about it. Yeah, and you know what's weird is the Phantom, that's accurate for this movie. He doesn't really have gadgets or superpowers, and he kind of looks like the Lone Ranger in purple riding a horse, and you're thinking to yourself, what does this have to do with like African mysticism? And you know, at the beginning of the movie it shows that like he's somehow infused with some supernatural African spirit force. Some kind of spirit force is in his body giving him some kind of power, but yet he has no powers. He's just a guy in a purple suit that rides a horse like the Lone Ranger, and the fight scenes are worse than the original Lone Ranger. What is going on here, and what is this? It is completely dumb. 3.5 stars, a film made in modern times but with a more old-fashioned sensibility, specifically the Saturday afternoon matinee serials from the 1930s. The Phantom is an absolute fun time for those who can appreciate the more pulpy adventure roots without the brooding dark nature of today's heroes. Billy Zane makes for a perfect hero. Wow. He could be the likes of Superman and Batman and excel in both roles, and his tall, dark, and handsome good looks and charming demeanor. I don't know what movie you're watching, but this doesn't even really qualify as a superhero movie. He has no superpowers. He's just like the Lone Ranger in purple in an Indiana Jones type rip-off setting. What is going on here? And you know another weird thing? Supposedly the British are, you know, he's operating in a realm, in a region of Africa that is under British colonial control. And then everything else, you know, the bad villain and everything, it comes from America, from New York. It's kind of incongruent. New York billionaire is seeking to steal something from in British control. Why wouldn't the billionaire be like British? Wouldn't that fit better? Again, it's like supposed to be set in some British colonized part of Africa, and yet it's definitely in Thailand or Southeast Asia somewhere, which was also under British control. It just doesn't work, especially with a New York billionaire and an American heroine character. You're mixing British and American things together, and that also doesn't work in this film, but that's the least of the film's problems. But again, I'm just telling you what else doesn't work for me in this. They should have just stuck all the way with a British villain and had a British actress, you know, as the love interest and whatnot, or gone with an American place under American control or not under anybody's control. But there's a mixture of British colonial period stuff in this that is like, it's just there and it doesn't work with the rest of it. But let's continue. 3 stars. 400 years ago, a young boy the last survivor of a pirate attack by the ruthless Sang Brotherhood, is washed ashore on an island called Bengala, where he swears to devote his life to the destruction of piracy, greed, cruelty, and injustice. In adulthood, he adopts the identity of the Phantom, a masked avenger. The role of the Phantom is passed on from father to son through centuries, causing people to believe in a single immortal figure and accordingly to nickname him the Ghost Who Walks. Well, wow, that's a very nice synopsis, but unfortunately, that does not come from the movie. We don't get that in the movie. You're reading that from a comic book or a story somewhere else. That's not given to us in the movie. I'm sorry. So I'm not good. If the movie had actually tried to give us some of that, it might have worked a little better. But what you've just described there in your review there, with your ridiculous 3 stars, is not what the movie gave us. Okay, the movie gave us like 30 seconds of crap exposition that did not explain anything. 1.5 stars. Even if the movie has Billy Zane and Catherine Zeta-Jones, it just can't help the movie to hide its ridiculousness in almost every way you look at it. The action scenes, principal in a superhero film, here are quite slow and tedious. The special effects looks like made with very little budget. The acting by part of the villains is terrible, and the script and execution of the movie has much trouble to solve. Yet I must admit it sometimes boasts to be highlighted as a not that bad movie after many years. Wow, even with your 1.5 stars, you're giving this too much credit. This is worse than everything you've just described. This is completely just bad and rotten and dumb. So I disagree. 4 stars. One of those guilty pleasures. No, you're watching a different movie. 1 star. Not only is the movie terrible, it has Billy Zane in a purple jumpsuit fighting bad guys. Yeah, it just aesthetically doesn't work with anything in Africa. A white guy in Africa wearing a purple suit, like the Lone Ranger with a purple suit on a white horse. What? I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for me. 1.5 stars. I feel bad for Billy Zane. I don't, because he's been in other bad movies too. He seems to enjoy being in bad movies. I don't know why people find him appealing in the slightest. He's like almost a joke of an actor that I would pick him to be in my film just to make fun of him, basically. 3.5 stars. Even though Billy Zane looks silly in a full purple spandex outfit, this movie is campy superhero fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously and has aged surprisingly well. It brings the comic book feel back into the movies that all the new comic movies have lost. Are you actually 80 years old? Because another reviewer said he was 78. This is a review from 2013, so maybe this reviewer is no longer with us, because if he was 80 in 2013, he might have passed on since then. Odds are he might have. So I don't know. Maybe somebody that was around when the serials of this were popular and the radio programs were popular. Maybe they see this in a different way. They're coming from that reality, because I just can't believe that's a real review otherwise. 4.5 stars. One of my favorite movies growing up, and I still love it today. Sure, it's a little corny, but it's still awesome. First superhero ever, and he plays the part exceptionally well. Well, he's not a superhero. Yes, you can say he's the first comic book hero, but superheroes have superpowers. At least in the context of this movie, he doesn't have any superpowers. So if he did in the comics, I don't know, but he doesn't in this movie, so that does not make him a superhero. Just dressing up in spandex doesn't make you a superhero. You have to have the superpowers to go along with that. I think we can largely agree on that. So let's largely agree that this is 0.5 star. 3 stars. I liked it, purple suit or no. The purple suit wasn't even the major flaw. They didn't even attempt to explain, where did he get a purple suit? He's out in the jungle of Africa, supposedly, living in a cave of some type. Where did he get the purple suit? Where did he manufacture it? Who designed it for him? Where did he order it off Amazon in the 1930s? What's going on here? 2 stars. As an animated feature, this film would have been fantastic. However, as a live-action film, it's hard to take it seriously. The cast is good and there is a lot of likability, but as a whole, it simply wasn't all that good. You're underselling how bad this is, I'm afraid. 3.5 stars. Though simple and undemanding, Phantom is a good adaptation of the legendary character, one of the first to wear the trademark spandex and domino mask outfits of superheroes, boasting a fun little adventure. With some good set pieces and a cast embracing the inherently old-fashioned nature of the material, Billy Zane is a smiling, charming do-gooder, while Treat Williams wonderfully chews up scenery like a termite as the slimy businessman villain, Drax. Uh, wow, you're too kind to this. I mean, these words are obviously not from the mind of a 5-year-old, and yet it's like a 5-year-old is reviewing this. There's nothing fun or adventurous about this. Past the very opening minutes where we have like an Indiana Jones ripoff. I don't get it. I don't see why this has such a high audience review. I really don't. 4 stars, good old-fashioned fun, considered gay by today's standards, but these people have daddy issues. Treat Williams, again, is amazing. No, there's nothing gay about this. This is the first I've heard of it. He's wearing a purple suit, but that's no more gay than Superman in a blue and red suit of the same material. No, I disagree. That's not why people don't like this. They don't like it because it's just dumb. The words are dumb and dumb, and that's with a D-U-M-B. There's no G-A-Y in there. 3 stars. Slated upon its release in 1996, The Phantom has never been on the top of anyone's favorite superhero list. I remember the character from Defenders of the Earth, but that's about it. This film isn't spectacular, but like some other films I've watched recently for the first time since their mid-90s releases, it's actually a nice change of pace from the current market. The Phantom has Billy Zane as the ghost that walks, a man who protects the deep, dark jungles by riding a horse. I don't even know where to start on this one. First of all, if you're looking for something, a superhero movie that's like dumber than all the others and completely stupid compared to all the others, then okay, this is right up your alley. I guess the MCU movies are just so fantastic that you needed to be right, just get you've had so many fantastic 5-star restaurant experiences that it became boring to you, so you decided to go and eat a greasy hot dog down at the cheap bodega and get indigestion just so you could go back and appreciate the Marvel movies. I'm getting that from this. I don't get it. I don't need to like punish myself with this movie to be reminded that the first Iron Man film's superior in every way. Now, I don't know what Defenders of the Earth is. Are you 80 years old that you would remember what that is? Maybe so. A lot of stuff from the mid-90s is crap, just like a lot of stuff made now. There's nothing about this being produced in the mid-90s that makes it bad. It's just, this was bad even for its time, and it's bad today. Nothing has changed. It doesn't get better like a fine wine that's aged over time. No, I'm afraid it's gotten even worse. Wow, I'm going to continue on because this is so weird just watching people defend this hunk of dumb. 2 stars from December of 2012. History is about to be made and you're all a part of it. Not an equal part, of course, but an important part nonetheless. I don't have any idea what you're talking about, and you're about 1 star too high, if not 1.5 stars too high. This is a half star. Half star. Yes, slam that evil. Slam it with the power of box office poison. Finally, somebody said something I agree with. 1 star. I've killed the Phantom. Join the club. We've all killed him over the years. He keeps coming back. Yeah. 3.5 stars. The Phantom is a ridiculously underrated action-adventure, which is like if you mixed Indiana Jones with Tarzan and dressed him up like the Green Lantern. The ending is rather silly, although appropriate for a kid's movie. The screenplay gives little for the cast to work with, and some parts are outright silly. Ignoring all that, The Phantom is a really good-looking movie, which is easy to watch as well as lots of fun. It features beautiful locations, excellent cinematography, colorful costumes. Wow, you're really trying to sell this thing. It's like you're almost a part of the marketing team, and I'm not sure why because this is such an old film. 3 stars, bad acting but fun story. It's like a ripoff from Indiana Jones, but I liked it. Okay, how come they couldn't just stick with the Indiana Jones part and just leave the Phantom alone? Because that would have been more entertaining. 5 stars, harmless old-fashioned comic book adventure. Oh, please. don't insult comic books like this. 2 stars. Even if the movie has Billy Zane and Catherine Zeta-Jones, it just can't help the movie to hide its ridiculousness in almost every way you look at it. The action scenes, principal in a superhero film, here are quite slow and tedious. The special effects look like made with very little budget, and yeah, I've read this one before, it seems. 5 stars. For a guy that wore a purple jumpsuit, damn, was the movie entertaining. Really? You're 5? Those are some big words for a 5-year-old. 3 stars. This movie's okay. Like a lot of the critics point out, though, it is definitely an homage to the 30s pulp comic books, so be prepared for some super cheesy lines and nothing remotely resembling the dark superheroes of the modern era. I've got news. The 1978 Superman film was not dark in any way. It was 100,000 times better than this in every way. This movie, it's not because it wasn't dark, it's because it's dumb. It's just so damn dumb. Every aspect of it is dumb. 100 minutes of dumb. 3 stars. Maybe it's the extremely low expectations that I had when I first sat down to watch this movie, but I actually enjoyed it. It's action and camp in the tradition of a Saturday morning serial. The acting at times leaves a lot to be desired, as does the script, but it's worth a sit through every now and then just for something different. No, 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 no. But I'm going to call this one, and I'm going to try to say that maybe that 31% audience score, the reason it's so high is because these are actually fans of the old 1930s serials that would appear in the movie theaters. They are also probably fans of the old radio shows. I'm not knocking that. Perhaps, there probably most certainly are people that are fans of that type of material today, and they're the ones that are giving this the 31% that are boosting it enough. But otherwise, for somebody expecting even a half passable comic book action adventure movie, I have to say 31% is too high, and I would think that more like 5% would be more appropriate on this. Literally 5%. That's my opinion. And I'm going to see you all again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.